Mark is a prominent Canberra-born businessman and has represented Australia as a triathlete. To achieve this, Mark has had to overcome multiple adversities. He attributes this to his positive mindset, resilience, and determination. It is these characteristics that make Mark a genuine entrepreneur. He has a very successful construction company, has owned coffee shops, which brought suspended coffee to Canberra. He developed Surfers Against Suicide to help bring mental health awareness and mentoring to the surfing community, and has been involved with Menslink since 2003. On top of this, sorry, you'll excuse my voice, you'll have to blame my brother, apparently. I'm just yelling at him. On top of all of this, he and his wife, Jo, raised their 5 sons and are active in the school's co-curricular program. Before COVID-19 struck, Mark was heading off to the World Triathlon Championships in Edmonton. We are privileged that Mark was happy to find time in his busy schedule to share his story, a fork in the road, and it is now over to him.
How's that being announced? I tried to introduce that at the dinner table at home, but my wife tells me just sit down. I'd like to acknowledge that we are standing Ngunnawal country, acknowledge the traditional owners, and as Tom Karma spoke yesterday about retention of language, I'd like to just restate how important retention of language is for any culture, and good on Tom, but storytelling to me is huge, so I better do a good job of this. The energy that I got yesterday when I came up here, the energy of these wonderful young students running Dirrum, I walked in here and I skipped all the way home. It's just outstanding, so thank you. I want to share with you 3 things that have driven me through adversity and to success in business and sport. Number 1 is optimism, the belief that there's hope in every situation. Mentoring is number 2. Guiding someone when you have no obligation to do it. And a connection to water. That is the spiritual, physical and mental health benefits of connecting to water. Our work in that drove me to create the charity Surfers Against Suicide. I have mentioned earlier that we got off to a quick start with Surfers Against Suicide and 30,000 people came to our first event. So I was busy that day, and so 3 things that you've got the 3 things: optimism, mentoring, and a connection to water. Recently, Tim Gable described me as Canberra businessman and well-known triathlete. Well, Canberra businessman, I've got that covered, no problems. I've had a dozen or more successful businesses in Canberra, including my building business, which has had one of its best years last year and been going for 30 years. Triathlete, I'm still not sure my name belongs on the same page as triathlete, let alone in the same sentence. But I'm going to let you be the judge of that. I want to tell, it sounds pretty good though, businessman, triathlete. No wonder I'm talking about optimism. You know. Yep, pretty easy. All good. I have to tell you that it wasn't always that way. I grew up and violence was all around me. I remember being disciplined with a piece of orange conduit as tall as me, a piece of bamboo as tall as me. I can tell you it doesn't matter the strength of the person wielding that, the mental and physical scars stay. Violence was all around me. I remember running for kilometres to avoid a fight, and the damage they did to my nose that day still stays with me. But we were on the edge of the law. I was breaking into properties, commercial buildings and stealing stuff that I didn't need just for attention. You heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I was the village idiot. It was serious though. We were on the edge of the law. I punched some of my friends. Guess what? They don't hang around. And I ended up at 17 years old, living just out of Canberra in a house with 2 heroin addicts. They called the bathroom the shooting gallery. Everybody had to wait outside before they could come into the house. I was right on the edge, and the fork in the road for me was, I could have ended up in corrective services. I could have ended up just floundering, lost. And mentors, people who had no reason to help me, no obligation, came into my life. First ones I remember were 15 years old, and I was playing soccer and I was making a fair idiot of myself again after the game, abusing someone, and this fellow left his son's game and his car was that way and he came towards me. And kids are aware of whether he should be coming to help me. I know that he's got no reason to. He's got to take his son home, get in the car and go. And he gives me a bit of a chat. I saw what you did today, Mark. Well done. That was great. Don't do that. When that guy does that to you, do it differently. You're a good kid, Mark. I think they call that the shit sandwich chat. Good stuff on the outside, crap in the middle, good stuff on the outside again. But 2 weeks later, he came back, same situation, home ground again, left his son's game while his son was still playing this time. Comes over, Mark, I see you've done that, and you've changed this and you've changed that. Well done. And young men and women are very aware of that. They're going fast, they're not really paying attention. They notice that, I can tell you. And then we think men need male mentors. That may well be the case, but my next mentor is the mother of a friend of mine. And I'd been stealing stuff and going to their house, and she gave me the shit sandwich chat too. I like you, Mark. Do not come to my house and don't swear. You're welcome here, but when you come here, you don't do that, and you don't do that. You're a good kid. Come back. And when at 17, I was living with 2 heroin addicts, and even Jeff, the fellow who owned the house, I came home swearing about somebody one day, and he stopped and he said, I see you angry, Mark, and don't worry about that guy. He said, the best way to convince a fool is to let him have his way. That's still going for me 30 years later. I'm loving that. But I couldn't stay there. I put a bag on my shoulders and I hitched to the coast and ended up down the coast. And on Christmas Day, I'm down the coast, and that lady whose son I'd been corrupting and doing the wrong thing with, she was there, and she said, I'll come over for Christmas lunch. Okay, right, yeah. And I did what I normally do, walk into the house, 2 exits, husband's there, 7 Christmas presents there. I was just cagey, and go outside, kick the football, come back in from kicking the football, look around, husband's gone, 2 exits there, yep, good. Oh shit. One of the Christmas presents has my name on it. So she changes her son's Christmas present to my name. And when you're that age, that effort that somebody puts in hangs on. It hangs on. And so I moved to Sydney. I come back to Canberra after making a goose out of myself out there. I started boarding with a 6'4" plumber from Cobargo. Of course I do. And he teaches me about a life of service. Wow, really? I was throwing rubbish out the window. He said, what kind of an Australian are you, Mark? And he says, well, Mark, a life of service is service to your group, your community, your family, your group of people who've had something similar happen to you. And life of service can be to your God, to your group. It doesn't matter. But you no longer need Armani jeans and BMW cars and all of those sorts of things because you live a life of service. Gordon Allen was his name, and wonderful fellow who just gave me that guidance when he had no reason to. And so I take those messages and I push on into business. You might know some of the businesses I've owned, that life of service and high energy of a ratbag kid goes well in business, provided you've got that guidance and those messages. And you might, so some of the businesses I've had, Rock Salt Restaurant, 39 Steps O'Connor, Upmarket Homes, Griffin's Bar at Griffith's Shops. So people say, Mark, why do you own a bar? And I say, well, just in case my personality or achievements aren't enough. And I push on into business. And one of my mentors, a carpenter, always said to me, Mark, work to live, don't live to work, and keep that bit of time spare for up here. And so I did that. And I've always managed, fortunately with the support of my wonderful family, I've always managed to work, well, never more than 40 hours a week. 12 businesses at one point, 5 children, and I've coached every one of them in soccer. And yes, keep time free for your mental health, and it allows you to make good decisions and creative decisions in business. So with that, I decided I'm going to take up triathlon. As you do with 12 businesses and 5 kids, I'm just going to take up triathlon. No, I reduced the workload in business, and I started on the triathlons, and within 2 years I made the Australian age group team. I was only training 5 times a week, and went to Mexico, competed at Mexico and finished in the top half of the field. Qualified for Rotterdam. Coming back from Rotterdam, optimism, sometimes a little bit unrealistic, but it's there still. And I say, I'm going to win this World Championships. That's it. I'm going to win it. I'm going back to train harder. So I started training 12 times a week. 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 mornings a week. And we're training at the criterium track out at Stromlo. 40 kilometres an hour by the time we get up around the top of the curve at the top there, and a kangaroo comes out of the bushes to try and get to the grass. And it didn't collide with me, it ploughed me into the pavement like a human speed bump. I'm bleeding out both ears. I fractured both sides of my skull. I fractured 6 vertebrae, but for my triathlon teammates, I'd be dead. Off to the hospital, 3 weeks in a coma. And the wonderful people in Ward 9B, you'd be happy you live in Australia and get to have those people look after you. I'm in Liverpool Brain Injury Clinic, and if you think that you're doing it tough, go there and see what happens. It's a very scary place. I'm in there, and there's a couple of days where I thought I might die, but generally I just thought, righto, let's get this over with. I'm going back to work. I'm not sure. And there was a fellow in there, I was only there for 10 days, ready to head back to Canberra. There's a fellow there who had been there 6 months. And I got permission to tell his story, but his name was, say, Harry, and his wife had written up a poster because he couldn't really speak very well, and he'd slipped on the tiles at home, and 6 months later could hardly remember his name. And I was 40 kilometres an hour on a bike, 3 weeks in a coma, and 10 days I was pretty well okay. I wasn't great, but I was okay. And I said to my wife, Jo, can we make a deal? If that ever happens to me, can you write up a poster saying I was Jean-Claude Van Damme's stuntman? Because I won't know any different, and I'll be going, yeah, I'm a bloody stuntman, mate. So, and a friend of mine came to me who had had a brain injury previously, and he said to me, Mark, your wife needs to know that, as happened to me, for the next 18 months, she's going to do it tough. You're going to be difficult, rude, intolerant. And I said, oh, well, my wife's got it easy. I was like that before the accident. And so, coming back to Canberra, I was left with the fear of the unknown. Will I be a good husband, a good father, a good businessman? Will I ever do triathlon again? And I'm left with that fear of the unknown and the mental challenges that come with that. I went straight back to work, as I do, and because I love it. And the mental challenges are there in that fear of the unknown. And those days where I thought, sorry, this is too hard, I'm not getting on with that person, I'm not getting on with my wife, what will I do? And in our work with Surfers Against Suicide, we have done a lot around the connection to water, how memories of water are disproportionately high around water, your time at the beach, the warm shower, the warm water, the sound of water on the roof, the swimming in water, floating in water. We've done a lot of work on it, and I've talked about it, but here I was at the depths of my challenge, the fork in the road, working out how I can do it. And I get in the water and I go to the beach. There were days where I could not work out what I was going to do, and I would swim only a few laps, get out, walk back to work. What's the problem? No problems. Arguments that I'd had with my wife were gone. I'm going, oh, actually, that seemed really important to me, and it's gone. So our theme here is a tipping points. And daily optimism and a belief that there's hope in every situation is the easiest. Mentoring. Seek out a mentor, be a mentor. The ripple effect of you being a mentor travels across through people's peers, through friendship groups, and potentially down through generations, as it is now with me. The connection to water, I just ask you, when you go to the beach, or you go and grab that garden hose, or you're at someone's pool, remember there's something in the water.